Hello, my name is Ryan Stevens, and this is the final project for the Rhetoric course. Um, I decided to do a PowerPoint presentation just because I thought it'd be something a little different. We've been doing a lot of, essays and using Word a lot, so I figured do a presentation. And the topic I decided to use was the battle for the viewers, and this is between CNN and Fox. And it's honestly something that I'm really interested in. I watch a lot of news. I tend to get most of my news from social media, but I do like to watch news. And these are some of the things that I actually thought about how CNN tells their side of the story versus Fox. And yeah, I enjoyed looking through the facts. So let's get started. First, I'm going to talk about Fox News. Fox started in 1996 by Rupert Murdoch. It was in October 1996, actually, and their headquarters are in Manhattan, New York. They reach nearly 200 million people per month, and they tend to be right leaning, which means they're kind of for the Republican agenda, and they kind of tailor their information for the Republican agenda. And Republicans trust Fox News more than any other news outlet. And it's actually funny because the statistic shows that Democrats distrust it more than any other news outlet. And six of 10 Republicans get their news straight from Fox. So you can kind of see how the echo chamber is forming here. If Fox News is tailoring their agenda for Republicans, of course Republicans are going to watch it because they're getting their information how they want to hear it, not exactly the whole story. Now we're going to talk about CNN. So just like I said earlier, CNN is going to do the same type of thing. They're going to tailor their information for, I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but they're tailoring their information for the Democrats. But CNN started in 1980 and it was founded by Ted Turner. Their headquarters are in Atlanta, Georgia, and they reach over 150 million viewers per month. And like I said, they are left leaning, so they have more of a democratic agenda. They're giving the information, they're giving the same information, but they're going to tailor it a type of way so that Democrats who are watching prefer to watch the CNN broadcast because the information they're getting, they want to hear it. 8 out of 10 Democrats get their news from CNN. They trust it, and it is the most trust outlet in the Democratic Party. So now that we talked about both respective outlets, I wanted to get into the differences. So I actually found a really good website. It's called the Pew Research Center, and they actually conducted a research project, and I actually found it really interesting just because, like I said earlier, it's kind of the things I thought about when I watch, Fox or CNN, like how they would tailor their broadcast. So pretty much, they took the two cable networks. The research lasted 9 days, and they pretty much focused on the two signature evening newscasts, and that was Fox Special Report and it was CNN's Newsnight. So throughout the broadcast, there was three different phases that both outlets kind of discussed, and it was essentially talking about the U.S. policies that the administrations were talking about, and throughout the broadcast, you could see at the facts of the PowerPoint, Fox News was 50% facts, roughly 30% analysis, and 14% punditry. And CNN was 87% fact and 6% punditry. So pretty much, without saying, if you just look at the facts and the statistics, you would see that CNN has a little bit more fact in what they're saying. But in the article that I read, it was giving out some examples why it would seem that way. So it said that Fox was more of patriotism. They really prided themselves on patriotism, and it brought up something about in the broadcast they were talking about Osama bin Laden's where he was living, but they didn't say his house. They said his rat's nest because obviously the patriotism, the people who are watching would side with that. They would enjoy hearing something like that. But CNN, on the other hand, the person at the time that was doing the broadcast, it was Aaron Brown, and it noted in the article that he was very vanilla. He was very bland with what he was saying. He wasn't really saying anything that would jump out at you as dissing whatever, tailoring their information to the Democratic Party. So it was pretty vanilla. So that could jump out at you and say, okay, well, it's making it seem like he's giving facts. It's making it seem like he's not siding with one side, where Fox didn't really care about that. They were just saying, whatever they could to get their audience. So that was something that I really enjoyed reading about. Um, how they can kind of manipulate what they're saying. They could both give the same information, but they can manipulate it in a way where, like I said, um, Brown from the CNN broadcast, it's kind of hard to disagree with him because what he's saying is just so bland and generic. It's hard to find the tone in his voice where it's like, okay, well, he's tailoring this information for Democrats and making the Republican Party look bad. So that was really the differences between the two. And you could see that in today's light. I mean, if you turned on, CNN or Fox, they could be talking about the same story, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be how they tailor their information. So the 24-hour news cycle, this is something we talked about in the class a couple of weeks ago, and so it's hard for me because growing up, obviously, maybe not in my earlier life, but I've always had a phone. I always had social media, so getting news was quick for me, and that's something that I like. I want my news fast. Most people nowadays want their news fast, but back in the day, that's kind of how CNN gained its popularity, how it was founded. They wanted to do the 24 hours news cycle. But obviously, there's pros and cons to that, some real pros and cons. Like I said earlier, a pro is yes, you're getting news really fast, but the con is how legit is that news? And that's why I threw up that image that you see right there of the reporter who says 24-hour news in the back, and he's saying, we're getting an unconfirmed report from an anonymous source making unverified claims and out of context video, which, if true, is huge news, and if not, utter horse hockey. So that's kind of how 24 hours news is. You kind of have to take it with a grain of salt at first because these news sources are trying to get their information out super fast without really, fact checking what's going on. And these could have some real consequences. This story is kind of a personal story, but a few months ago, there was a shooting in Lewistown, Maine, and a guy went into, I think it was a bar and a bowling alley and killed 18 people. And this was very early on when it came on the news, and it was pretty late at night. It was probably about 1 or 2 in the morning that I remember, and I was just on my phone looking through, the information that people were putting out, and it just so happens people start putting this face online, this image out of this man, and they said this is who did it. This is Robert Card, and this is the guy, and they start plastering this guy's face all over social media, and they're bashing him, and they're throwing up where he was working and all this crazy stuff. And here it ended up being a different Robert Card who was the guy who killed 18 people. So these have some serious consequences. If someone, he might have lost his job, his family, his friend, like no one really knows what could happen, but these have serious consequences. So it's not the 24 hours news cycle. It's not always the best thing for it to be fast. Like every news outlet wants to throw the information in there. It's like we found it first. This is the information, but that doesn't mean it's always right, and it could have some serious consequences. So, in conclusion, the 24 hours news cycle is great. You get information at your fingertips fast the moment it happens, but that doesn't always mean it's right. And it could be potentially dangerous. So yeah, that pretty much concludes the presentation. This was something, I really was interested in, and I'm glad I was able to do some research on it. And yeah, thank you for listening.